Welcome to the Illini Audible Podcast. My name is Said Bravo. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the pod. As always, I really appreciate it. And we are reacting. I am reacting to what this NCAA tournament win, the beatdown that we just witnessed down in Greenville, South Carolina. Illinois taking down Penn in really a what game that turned out to be a beatdown, as I mentioned. But obviously, I mean, at this point, I have a lot of thoughts really swirling in my head. That's why I decided to come on here solo and talk about what this game means in the short term, in the long term, and obviously starting off the NCAA tournament with on a good note, which is was really important given the fact that Illinois had not won a critical game in quite a long time. Even the last time they won a game in the Big Ten Conference, it was a game where they barely escaped Maryland. And the last time they put a beat down like this, it was Oregon. And there's so many things that I think went into this game and a lot of things that are gonna be unpacked moving forward as the next 24 hours move along. But it is just nice to understand, to know that Illinois will move on to the next round uh, the way that they did. And let's just start there, because that's, to me, was one of the biggest things coming into this game. They say that comparison is the thief of joy. But on a day when we were quickly reminded of the suddenness of the end, where we witnessed how many upsets, of course, that is the nature of March Madness. That is the whole design, the whole point of this whole tournament. But on a day when we were reminded of the suddenness of the end, I think you come away really content with the kind of win that you got here tonight if you're an Illinois fan, which, of course, all of you listening have to be if you're listening to this podcast. But really, that's, to me, was one of the things that coming into this game, there was some anxiety induced because you were reminded of how teams can let up. And to me, one of the best examples of that was not only the game of Wisconsin lost, of course, that was High Point taking down Wisconsin, of course, a team that Illinois knew very well in 2025 and 2026. But not only that, it is the idea that a team like Siena could go into the tournament and be on the brink of something extremely special against Duke. And that is when you are reminded of the fragileness of your team being in the tournament, because it's a one game sample size. And to have this kind of win is certainly encouraging. While I will unpack a little bit more of that whole idea, that whole spectrum of way of thinking, I do think that, first of all, that is a good way to start. And that is the important, that is the, if you're taking away something to start from this game, it's that, hey, Illinois moves on. You can breathe again. You can, go to sleep really well as an Illinois fan, and you can move on and live another day knowing that Illinois will take on VCU in on Saturday in the next round of 32, with Illinois having, which could be favorites, and should, be a team that you should have your eyes on going into that round. Okay, that's a good place to start. So now let's kind of unpack the game itself, because Illinois, of course, was a team that coming into this tournament, when you talk about the design of this tournament, it's about, some of it is, obviously, you have levels to it. Big Ten, SEC, ACC, those teams are always going to be a certain level of good, and are certainly really good. But there's a certain element as well of who's hot and who's not. And certainly Illinois was a team that maybe their stock maybe wasn't as high as you would have expected coming into March, especially being a 3 seed coming into this particular tournament. And a team that hadn't really been all that stellar since early February when they had a 40-point beatdown against Northwestern at State Farm Center. That's really the last time when you felt like this team was really, really special. And of course, we saw those 5 quad-1 games unravel the way that they unraveled. But this is new life. This is the tournament. This is kind of its own season and its own craziness. And Illinois, of course, began the game, kind of shaky. That would when you felt like Illinois wasn't really putting up that many points, and there's certainly a lot of it that we can unravel, or excuse me, that we can unpack. But the main takeaway from this game was David Merkovich. To me, it was David Merk more than Keaton Wagler. They both, of course, it felt like you saw a Keaton Wagler that you hadn't seen in quite some time. But to me, because of all the verbiage, all the discourse surrounding Illinois missing a guy who can, quote unquote, and this is from Brad Underwood, give a damn. That's what Underwood has said for the last, not even since the tournament loss. He's said that, he sprinkled that around, he's teased that over the last couple weeks. And to me, not much to my surprise, or it shouldn't be really to anybody's surprise. This is literally a guy who said, quote, if I didn't play today, I would have killed myself. That kind of stuff, right? David Merkovich is the guy that gives a damn, because his effort tonight was something that you really won't forget. 8 offensive rebounds, 9 defensive rebounds, 17 total. He led the way in winning that rebound battle, which of course Illinois winning that rebound battle 48-25 was instrumental in winning this game. Is something that you hope you can continue to see as we move forward into the deeper rounds of the tournament, which of course it's going to get tougher. But this is certainly a great start in Illinois, and excuse me, David Berkovich having that impact. 17 rebounds, 29 points, only one turnover, 3 assists in 28 minutes, because of course the other, let's say, 9 minutes, Underwood did not really have to play him at all, because he was so stellar in those first 28 minutes that he played, that it really left no doubt that Illinois was going to indeed win this game. And he was, to me, the principal difference maker inside of this game, the tone setter that Illinois had been looking for quite some time now. I will go ahead and talk about how doing this against this particular team, not to diminish any value in this game, but there must be, kind of a disclaimer, kind of a, I don't mean to be, a Debbie Downer, but there needs to be realities that must be acknowledged when we take into account the opponent inside of this particular round, inside of this particular game. But for now, let's talk about how David Merkovich was that key difference maker and was the principal guy for getting this thing done. And you saw him as you saw him this entire season, which was a guy who puts in all the effort. It's why he's been the guy that we've been talking about as the guy you feel the best about going into this tournament. The passion, the grit that Underwood looks for, and the overall, just the player that he becomes when it turns into crunch time. That is what Illinois needed, in a sense. And he's got the quota, I would say, I don't know if Underwood would say that, the nasty, right? That Illinois had been looking for. And that is encouraging to see. 11 for 17 from the field goal. He even had 4 three-pointers to pair that up with. And so you certainly feel encouraged about what he did. And if he can start this and continue this going into the deeper rounds of the tournament, then Illinois should be in great shape. You just hope this kind of performance can continue. It'll get tougher, and that is something that it'll that Illinois will have to deal with. But moving forward, Keaton Wagler again. The Keaton Wagler kind of reemerged as the guy that we saw earlier in the season in January, and it was interesting because I thought that in the over the last couple weeks, his impact might have felt to the maybe the blind eye or to the to the naked basketball viewing eye, like he wasn't the same player. And certainly you could say that statistically his shooting numbers were probably not the same as what they were earlier this season. But today, on a night where Illinois is do or die, it was clear that Keaton Wagler became kind of reemerged as that guy shot 50% from the field, 7 for 14, had 4 3-pointers to go along with that, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists. A guy that continues to be unselfish, as we've seen all year, but a guy that needed this kind of game. I thought that Andrej Stojakovic would continue. Andres and Kyland would continue to drive into the paint. This is certainly a team that you certainly could have done that, but you know David and Keaton were certainly the leaders on the floor when it comes to the production side of things and the prospect of having David for next season. And that's something that Illinois will have to deal with once this whole thing comes to an end. But the prospect of that actually happening is very, very intriguing for anyone in Champaign, any Illinois fan, of course. And that is to me the biggest thing. And um, on a night where you had to play, uh, you put in your secondary players, your bench, AJ Red, Brandon Lee, uh, Blake Fagbemi, and Mihailo Petrovic. Like when you knew that this was a game you comfortably led, that you comfortably won. You certainly feel good about that. Certainly because of where this program was just a short couple of weeks ago, and last weekend, this felt a lot like a team in that locker room. It felt like a wake. It felt really, really down. And this is certainly something that you'll feel good about. Mike Zanoni was man for Penn. He was incredible. He shot 9 for 18, had 20 points. Um, it felt like Penn was nailing a lot of threes. Ultimately, they didn't really 9 for 30, but if you were worried about anything, there were certainly times early on in that game where you felt the struggle. But ultimately, Illinois just powered through, totally powered through. But I do want to point out one of the things that I did want to point out is that, especially early on in that first half, as the first half even wound down, 3-point shooting and just shooting in general was an issue because you saw Illinois ended the night shooting 15 for 36. I'm pretty sure by halftime Illinois only shot 6 for 21 from 3, and that is an issue. You cannot be doing that uh, in the upcoming games if you want to continue to advance past the round of 32, past the Sweet 16, all of that. And that is a point of concern for me, that 3-point shooting, especially in that first half, was not there. And then obviously this is a matchup based thing where Illinois was able to afford themselves a lot of 3-point shots simply because they could move the ball around very comfortably against this particular team. But it's still important to acknowledge that they are still in a shooting slump. I certainly feel like they are still in a shooting slump. 37 for 74 is what they shot from field goal. It's like a little less than 50%. But I do think that's something that you should keep an eye on because besides David Berkovich and besides Keaton Wagler, maybe there could have been a little bit of better shooting night. Obviously, it's not the worst thing, right? Like 37 out of 74 is not totally awful, but it I 50 to shoot 50% from the field in a tournament game. I guess it's not totally bad. But I do wonder, you know, I do wonder if that will continue to be an issue, especially in that first half. Because yeah, the second half they totally took off, and the shooting was what lifted this team past, and the defense was also really good to not allow a foul up until really the last couple of minutes. I mean, the first foul attempt for Penn came at the 10-minute mark in the second half. It's pretty ridiculous to be that clean on defense. Was It really speaks to the discipline that defensively that this team was able to make, or was able to be at, the level of discipline that this team was able to be at. And that's props to Cam Crocker. That's props to Illinois for really putting on their straps and being able to, lock down defensively, albeit this team might not be the team that, that is going to put up um, the biggest fight against this particular Illinois team, just purely based on size again, because of course Illinois being the tallest team in the country, and this Ivy League team, certainly different levels. There's different levels to it, and you certainly saw that today. But man, one thing I will say again is that one I will emphasis besides that is that it felt like tonight Illinois did get the calls, right? Like Keaton Wagler was able to get the calls when he did go into the rim. He even got an offensive foul called on Penn when Keaton Wagler was defending a player. And that's the kind of stuff that we hadn't seen in a while, that we really hadn't seen throughout the course of the season. And to see that was certainly a relief. Just hope that if Keaton Wagler continues to play in that style, that continues to happen, because we haven't always seen the fouls come down. And so yeah, it's pretty impressive that those two things hopefully are something to kind of monitor, right? To something to kind of feel good about. I think here's how I don't mean to end it like this, right? Just to end the quick thoughts on everything here, because there's certainly more to unpack, but that will be for another time. I I feel the need to caution you guys, because of course this is no doubt about it a game that you feel good about, coming out of this game with Illinois dropping 100 points for the 100 plus points for the first time in an NCAA tournament game. It is an impressive feat for the number 2 Kempom team in the country offensively versus an Ivy League team that, while they did put up a fight in the first half, while you are reminded on this day about the fragileness of your status in the tournament because of how many teams are able to really be competitive in the first round, this is still a Penn team. This is still a 14 seed. You did what you needed to do, but I would hope that fans enjoy this tonight, enjoy it tomorrow, Friday, but are ready to turn the page to the next thing, because this is a Penn team that really wasn't ever gonna really, unless things really unfolded totally differently, Illinois will have to do much more going forward. Uh, Defensively, you were encouraged, but it's not like Penn is what a perhaps a Houston will be in the future. You might see in the future. It's not like Penn is one of these Big Ten teams that Illinois has fallen victim to in the past. There's a lot of things that can happen differently. And I feel the need to remind you guys that, well, yes, it's great to recognize and to feel good about this win that moves you along to the round of 32. Be careful with how excited you get about the potential of going even further simply because this is an 100 burger that you dropped on an Ivy League team that was clearly outmatched for pretty much everything that Illinois had to offer, whether it was perimeter guards and on the paint. It rebounded, David Berkovich dominating, Keaton Wagler attacking the paint, even the end with Brandon Lee suddenly going in and attacking the rim. It's this kind of stuff that's not going to translate into the VCU game. Maybe it will a little bit, but it won't. It won't. If you move along into this tournament, you know that the margin for error will continue to be smaller. And that's something to keep in mind as you continue to get excited about this Illinois team. There's still an Illinois team that got can get comfortable. That maybe tonight didn't have that opportunity. I was curious to see if Illinois would maybe get comfortable as this game moved along and as this game got out of hand. We obviously never saw that. Perhaps there wasn't a need to see that. Maybe Penn was didn't push the envelope enough for Illinois to feel that way. But maybe maybe we'll see this going forward that Illinois is able to muster and kind of uh, control those demons and really be locked in on each game and not let up. I do think concerns are still valid. To have concerns, they're still valid because this is a 14 seed Penn. It's not the cream of the crop right now. But that's the beauty of the tournament. You're going to continue to see even better teams. You're going to continue to push the envelope. And you just hope that Illinois has enough volume of character, volume of players and skill, and can continue momentum, can get right after this game, mentally be in the right mental space to continue to make a run. And we'll see. We won't know until we get to the end. We won't know. That's the beauty of it. And the beauty of it is also the fact that you really only have one game to prove it. So, Illinois, you did what you needed to do. But now it's time to continue that. Greenville, South Carolina, VCU, Saturday. That's going to be pretty. It's gonna be an interesting game, right? Simply because of the team that VCU was able to beat, and Illinois having that path to hopefully make it to the Sweet 16. We'll see how it all unfolds. I'm excited to watch that game, and we'll follow along as everything unfolds, and we'll see where they end up. So subscribe, rate, review if you so please. Really appreciate the support and hopefully continue to consume the podcast, consume my stuff at thechampagneroom.com. A lot of more content coming up. So subscribe, rate, review. Peace.